Also, Team Ukraine has a very hard list, 18.1 total degree of difficulty. As I said before, how Germany and Great Britain had the hardest list, 18.2 total. The first two rounds, as always in the synchronized diving, is the degree of difficulty is stuck at 2.0. Here is Sandro and Tornique. They're doing a back dive pike. Well timed, but Tornique is closer to the board than his teammate Sandro. On the right side, Sandro ends up being further back from the board. The timing getting the water is excellent, perfectly at the same time. Straight 7. You see how the two divers are at different distance from the board. 7s for them. 42 total points on the first dive. Team Austria now. Also for them, a back dive pike. Most of the divers in this first round are doing the back dive pike. There are 9 teams out of 12 that are doing the back dive pike on this first round. And very good timing once again also for the Austrians, just like Team Georgia. The timing getting in the water is very similar and not as bad as the Georgians, but similar to them. Also in this case, the diver on the right side, on the left board. Now you can see how they're not at different distance from the springboard. So 44-40 for Team Austria, and they are in front of Team Georgia by just 2.40 points. Team Croatia now, a very young team. Both divers are just 16 years old. Back dive, no, inward dive pike for them. And beautiful entries. The dives are both not extremely high. The movement seem pretty good. Timing is perfect. You see how they both grab their hands at the same time. It's a good job, especially here. You see how the distance from the board is exactly the same. So not bad at all. It is the best dive so far in the competition. 47-40 for them. Beautiful dive. Back dive pike for Team Spain now on the springboard ready. Adrian on the right and Nicolas on the left. Here we have coaches. See how they do on this dive. First of all, gotta get the right timing off the board. They do an excellent job on the back dive pike. Always together since the very beginning. Arms up together, same time in the pike position and out, and also the hands end up getting in the water exactly at the same time. So a very good job, and they're probably going to get him first with this execution. 8, straight 8, 48 points. Not bad at all. Now Team Greece. Grigorios and Athanasios. Team Greece was in 6th place last year at Europeans. They start with a inward dive pike. And not perfect in the timing. they were pretty different already here with the arms at the beginning, and especially Athanasius on the left side of the screen. He was too far away from the board on such an easy dive, different distance from the board by the two divers. 44-40 for Team Greece. And now, well, we hear the scores for Team Greece. Now we have already Team Ukraine on the board. For 1.5 somersault pike. A good job by Team Ukraine. The first hurdle we see in this competition. They're very high, good strong jump by both divers. Also for them, a little different distance from the springboard, but I gotta say, an excellent individual performance by the two divers. So they're most likely getting in front of everyone, and they're in first at 48 points, same score as Team Spain. The seventh team in this final is Team France. Team France with these two divers has been doing very good this week. They got second and third in the 3-meter individual event. Jules and Alexis, got also a medal on 1 meter, so not bad at all. And they make a little mistake on this dive. Alexis ends up going further back, more distant from the springboard, and also a bit over. Not a perfect dive, but pretty good. I was expecting a better execution, especially by Alexis, but overall, not too bad. They're just a bit more than 2 points behind the leaders at 45-60. Team Switzerland now, back dive pike for them as well, and that's the remaining teams. They're all gonna perform a back dive pike from now on until the end of the first round. Jonathan and Guillaume. Guillaume is closer to the camera right now. Jonathan is the one in charge of counting. And they do an excellent job. Jonathan's entries was perfect. A little bit more splashes from Guillaume. On the right side, Guillaume, and on the left, Jonathan. You can see how they move their arms together, get in the water pretty much at the same time, but not bad at all. This is gonna score high, and 7.5 and 8 individually, 8 and 8.5 in synchro, and this one is the higher scoring dive so far, 48-60. Team Germany on the springboard right now. Timo and Lars are doing also back dive pike. And also for Team Germany, an excellent dive on this first round of dive. If they don't get in first, they're for sure around that total score on this dive. Probably just Timo slightly ahead of time getting in the water. It could have gone higher. Not too bad though. That was the only thing I noticed. Other than that, it's perfect. Distance is perfect. Arms movements are perfect. 8 and 8.5, 49-20, and they take the lead. And you can hear the crowd cheering. Team Poland got up on the board. Let's see how they do their back dive pike. also for Team Poland, a good dive. Probably not as clean and sharp as the Germans, but extremely high jump for both divers and nice entries together. Look how it looks like there's only one person getting in the water right now. They're exactly at the same time. Very well executed, especially the synchronization. 46.80 for them. They're in 6th, but they're all very close. All very close to these teams. It's just the first dive and it's a low degree of difficulty. So let's see how the British divers do on their back dive pike. Also for Team Great Britain, a pretty solid performance, good execution of the individual dives, same height, good timing, arms are together, easy dives in the first 2 rounds of dives, so no major mistakes by all the teams. Beautiful how they move so well synchronized. Probably just Ross, a little bit more distance from the board, but individual dives are perfect. Total of 49.20 for them, and their same score as Team Germany, yes. In first. Last divers of this first round, the last team in the dive order is Team Italy. Silver medalist last year in Rome. They're doing a back dive pike also. See Giovanni counting. And also for Team Italy, an excellent job. Always together throughout all the movements in this dive. Also beautiful entries by both divers. So the scores go from 7.5 individual and 9 in synchro, but the 1 9 in synchro does, yeah, the 3 9s in synchro count all of them, and they get ahead of everyone at 51.60. Excellent dive by the Italians. We have almost 2 points advantage on Team Great Britain. You can see it here, and in third is Team Germany at 49.20. It's just the first dive. We still have a long way to go before the last dive that will give out the medals. Team Georgia now, Sandro Melikidze and Tornike Onikasvili, reverse dive pike. Not a good execution by Sandro on the right side, completely over the end of the board. He actually even bends his knees before getting in the water. Already from the hurdle was not a good timing. You see how Tornica gets in the water earlier. So yeah, not scoring very high on this dive of Team Georgia. 6.5 and 4.5 individual and 5.5 and 6s in synchro. And now we have Alexander Hart and Nikolai Schaller on the board from Team Austria. Reverse dive for them. And a lot of noise on the boards by the Austrian divers, but I gotta say that then in the air they did an excellent job. You see it here, taking off perfectly together. Probably just a different way by the two divers are bringing the arms behind, but they get in the water together. Both divers slightly over. Good job overall. 7.5 from the judges. Average of 7.5, 44.40. Now Team Croatia. Luka and Matej. Also for them, a reverse dive pike. Wow, they managed to get back on track with the timing in the air, but the hurdle and press, you see it here, how it was completely different. And also when they ended up getting in the water, very clean for Matej, and Luka closer to the camera, just goes too far over. So individually, could have been better. $88.80 total points after 2 rounds for Team Croatia. And now Team Spain, who was in 5th place after first dive, also for them is a reverse dive pike. So many reverse dives in the second round and many back dives on the first round. In the first round, well, Spain does a great job. We see the coach's reaction, also the teammates cheering for them. Not too bad, probably just a little different distance from the board. Nico seemed closer, but the timing is perfect. I was saying, why so many back dives and reverse dives in the first 2 rounds? Because the first 2 rounds have voluntary dives, so just easier dives, and most of the teams would rather not risk the reverse 3.5 somersault or the back 2.5 somersault pike. The back, because as a back 2.5 somersault has a lower degree of difficulty, and reverse 3.5 is quite risky for many divers. The back and reverse rotations are harder to understand, and it's also always tricky, not very simple to get high scores on those. So that's why they decide to do the back and reverse dive in the voluntaries. So we saw Spain scoring 7.5 and 8. For them, 46.20. They're at 94.20. And now we saw Team Greece with their reverse dive pike. Not very strong off the board, but they do a good job getting clean entries, both of them. They end up getting 7th from the judges and a 42 total points on this dive, puts them in 4th place at the moment. Team Ukraine now, 48 points for them on the first dive. Now they are showing us a back dive pike. Not bad, a very good time, that especially is very clean, both divers in the entry. And I was checking every team's list, and I noticed that there's just one team that is performing the backward group of dive in the optionals. Is Team Croatia with back 2.5 somersault pike. Well, we saw an excellent back dive by Team Ukraine, 49.20 on this dive, 8 and 8.5. Not bad at all, and Team Ukraine is ahead of everyone at 97.20. Team France now, that didn't struggle but had a tiny mistake in the first dive, reverse dive pike for them. And they do a much better job on this reverse dive pike than the previous round. Very high, both divers just go incredibly high. It's a little bit noisy on the board, Didn't get a perfect timing with the springboard. Here you see on the right side how Alexis gets in the water ahead of his teammate, but overall a better job than the previous round. 8 and 8.5 from the judges, 49.80, and they're at 95.40. Now Team Switzerland. Also for them a reverse dive pike. And the timing getting in the water, the moment they got was identical, but you can see when they come out of the pike position, you see it here, they're getting a pike, and then Jonathan started moving his hands a little bit too early. Started early, but then Guillaume picked up some speed with his arm movement and got back on track. Slightly different position in the water. Jonathan seemed a little bit more arch, but overall very good. 7.5 and 8, and they give us big smiles there. 95.40. Seems like Team Switzerland is having a very nice time competing today. Inward dive pike for Team Germany now, the 9th team in the second round. Inward dive pike, very well executed, strong jump, and the coaches seem happy with that. High scoring voluntary dive. Beautiful entries by both divers. You see how they're exactly the same time in the water. And this dive is going to score more than 50 points. Actually, to be right, is 51 even. 8 and 9 for them. Not bad at all. Team Germany gets ahead of everyone at 100.20. Team Poland now. Reverse dive pike. Good individual dives, not exactly at the same time coming down from the hurdle. We saw how the divers were moving at different speed there, and Andrei ends up being in the water a little bit ahead of time compared to his teammate. Not bad at all though. A good execution overall for Team Poland. 46-20. They're at 93 points in 6th place at the moment. See now Team Great Britain for 1.5 somersault pike. And they double up on the forward rotations, forward somersaulting dives. In the last round, they'll perform the forward 4.5 somersault tuck. Not perfect. I gotta say not perfect. The timing on the board was good. On the left side, James seems to be ahead of time. You see he's lower and much faster into and out of the somersault. We saw him horizontal already, completely straight. So not a wonderful execution by him, but 18 synchro. 47-40, a total of 97-20 puts Great Britain in 2nd place, same score as Team Ukraine. Last voluntary dive. And before we start the optional rounds, we have the reverse dive pike by Team Italy. Also for Team Italy, not a perfect synchronization. Yeah, disappointment on the face of the coaches. Giovanni Tocci was way too far back on the board coming down from the hurdle, and you see how he's much ahead of time getting in the water compared to his teammate. So still getting a good score overall, because 8 is not bad, 7.5 and 8 individually and 8 in synchro, but they lost the advantage that they had after the first round of dives, and they're in second place right now. You can see these standings after the voluntary dives, the first 2 rounds of dives: Germany, Italy, and Great Britain. Closes the rankings in last place, Team Georgia, that had too big of a mistake. And it's Team Georgia that we're going to see starting the 3rd round of dives in just a few seconds with the inward 2.5 somersault pike, 3.0 degree of difficulty. I want to remind you that from now on, the degree of difficulty is the exact degree of difficulty that the dive has, and not set at 2.0. So Georgia now. A lot of movements there, bouncing on the board before taking off. And another dive that gets off rhythm for them. They were rocking up and down the board a lot. Took off together but at different speeds. So Tornique on the left side gets vertical, a little bit more vertical than Sandro. Tornique actually does a good dive, solid dive individual, 6.5, 7 for him. It's just the somersaulting speed is totally different, so synchronization scores are going to be low. And it's exactly that, 6.5, 5 individuals, 6.5 in synchro. And Team Austria is now showing us the same exact dive. They're hoping to do better than what Georgia did. And you can easily see how much better they do compared to Georgia. They, in the somersault, you see it here, when they're spinning, their legs are at the same exact moment of the somersault. It's not the same exact spot of the somersault. When in both somersaults and on the come out, they have the right timing in the water. Just Alex was a tiny bit further back than Nikolai in the water, more distant than his teammate. Also an inward 2.5 somersault pike for Team Croatia now. Matej and Luka are ready on the board. First experience at European Championship for both divers. They're, again, very, very young, just 16 years old. This is like a warm-up for the Junior European Championship that will take place in Croatia in August. And they'll for sure be there competing. Inward 2.5 somersault pike, well executed. Good somersault by both divers. The only problem with this dive is that Luka, here closer to the camera, comes out of the somersault too late and ends up going too far over. 60 points for them, and they are just less than a point behind Team Austria in second place right now. Now Spain on the springboard. For them, a forward 3.5 somersault pike. Very good. And we see some excitement by the Spanish team. Very good top part of the dive. Both divers go very high. Probably slightly different somersault speed, but the height of the dive is the same. Yeah, we saw how Nico was ahead of time in the somersault, but both divers get a very clean entry, 72.54, and Spain gets up in first place right now. Team Greece now, 2.8 degree of difficulty for their forward 3.5 somersault tuck. So the same dive as Team Spain, but in a tuck position. Both divers end up going too far over rotate that somersault. It wasn't too bad in the somersault here. They are at the same height and same speed, but both divers just go too far over. Individually, the dives don't score very high, and that's why also the synchronization can't be too good. 4.5 individually, 6.5 in synchro, 47.04 for them. They're in fourth place right now. Team Ukraine, inward 3.5 somersault tuck, the hardest dive so far in the first round of optionals, the third round of the competition. 3.4. It's interesting how we see Team Ukraine doing a good job with this inward 3.5 somersault tuck. I was saying how it's interesting these competitions that do not have a preliminary round. The dive order is given by a computer, so it's totally random. But it's interesting how the divers, the teams with the hardest list are towards the end of the dive order. So starting with Ukraine, from now on we have harder dives throughout the whole competition. At every round we'll see easier dives performed by the first 5 teams, and then from team number 6 on, the degree of difficulty gets much higher. So we saw Team Ukraine scoring a total of 71.40 points and getting ahead of everyone right now. Inward 3.5 somersault tuck also for Team France. It doesn't seem perfectly together. Alexis doesn't get a very strong push off the board. Here the somersault is at the same speed, but Alexis is shorter and lower and shorter than Jules. So they do get a good dive, but not as good as Team Ukraine. 6s in synchro, 7.5. Excuse me, the opposite. 6 in individual and 7.5 in synchro. Team France is at 164 points behind Team Spain. Now inward 2.5 somersault pike for Team Switzerland. So the same direction, so inward dive, inward somersaulting dive, with a 2.5 in a pike position. Good individual dive, especially by Jonathan. Here we'll see him on the slow motion how Jonathan is on the left side and he gets a perfect entry. Guillaume instead ends up being a little bit short and further away from the board. You see it here. They're not in line. That's why the judges deduct a few points for them. So total of 160.20 for Team Switzerland now. Team Germany, 3.4 degree of difficulty for their forward 2.5 somersault, double twist. Nice individual entries and nice dive. Lars is leaning too far forward, coming down from the hurdle. is more distant from the board. You see how they got out of the pike position and into the twist exactly at the same time. It is not bad at all. It's most likely the highest scoring dive of this third round of dives, but they could have done better here, for sure. The different distance from the board caused the synchro judges to give lower scores. 7 and 6 individually, 7.5 in synchro, 172.62, and they're ahead of everyone. And now, Team Poland. Forward 3.5 somersault pike for them. Oh, nice recovery by Andrei Sheshutek. He was leaning way too far forward. A big mistake on that hurdle. He had to use all the strength in his legs to stay on the board and then hold on to the legs on the pike position. We saw him coming out of that somersault much later than his teammate. Not excellent, but I gotta say, and that's probably what he was telling to Casper here in this slow motion. They're still talking about what went right or wrong in this dive. 6.5 individually, 7.5 in synchro, 65-10 for Team Poland. And they are just 14 points behind Team Germany in the lead. Team Great Britain now, reverse 1.5 somersault, 3.5 twist. Good individual dive by both divers, but I gotta say not too well in synchro, especially because of the distance from the board. And don't get me wrong, it's an excellent dive. I was expecting better synchronization, better synchro by the diver. See here how Ross is further away from the board. There's a high degree of difficulty. Tony Halley, their coach, seems happy with that. And they laugh about it. 75-60 for Team Great Britain. They're in first. Very close with Team Germany. 0.18 points. So 18% of a point ahead of Team Germany. Team Italy now. Forward 3.5 somersault pike for them. 3.1 degree of difficulty. And this time around it was Lorenzo Marsaglia on the right springboard who stepped back. You see him here, not at the end of the board, but they still get a good speed. Lorenzo is way ahead of time getting in the water. Unfortunately lower than his teammate because of the struggle on the hurdle. They still get very good synchro scores, even though they're not at the same height, but individually they do two amazing dives. And 8s from the judges, 72-54 puts them in third place, just 1 point behind Team Great Britain, who is in the lead. We still have a very close competition. Anything can still happen. We're just halfway through the competition. And as always, with high degree of difficulty dives, very difficult dives we'll see throughout the competition, anything is still open. And we are ready for the fourth round of dives, second optional. Sandro and Torniche, forward 3.5 somersault pike for them. Much better job on this dive, I gotta say. They're perfectly at the same speed in the somersault. It's easier on the slow motion to see. Good timing off the board, and you see how the legs are at the same spot of the somersault while they're spinning. Just Sandro further away from the camera here is just more distant from the board. That's the only difference in this synchro. So the best dive for them so far, 61.38 for the Georgian divers, to get up at 191.58. Team Austria now. Also for them, a forward 3.5 somersault pike. Nice dive. Too bad at the very last second. You'll see it in the slow motion. At the very last second, Nikolai on the left side ends up going a little bit in an arch position and over. At the very end, you see it here easily here. His heels and legs just slightly over, but it was very well executed both individually and in synchro. Not bad at all. 67.89. Team Croatia now, also for them, a forward 3.5 somersault pike. The same dive 4 times in a row, because also Team Italy in the previous round did that. Totally different hurdle here. And a very bad dive for the young Croatian divers. Struggle a lot, especially Luka on the left. Got the hurdle completely wrong and completely different. Yeah, that's when the mistake is at the beginning of the dive, like for example in this case on the hurdle, it gets very complicated to recover. So yeah, they do not seem very happy with that, obviously. Too bad. Now Team Spain, forward 2.5 somersault, double twist. See the coaches and the teammates there. Everyone is very focused. 3.4 degree of difficulty for Team Spain, who was in 5th place after 3 rounds. Excellent job by the Spanish divers. Probably the entries could have been cleaner. I gotta say, in the air here we see takeoff is together, twister is together, and they get at the water and they're just not very clean. That's the only problem. But not bad is also a high degree of difficulty dive, 3.4, so they end up getting 7.5 in synchro. And as I said, the individual dive could have been better by both divers, especially in the entry. They get 72.42 and they're in 1st place right now. Team Greece now, back 2.5 somersault pike. Oh, I got that wrong then before. I told you that only Team Croatia was doing this dive, but also Team Greece, I guess I didn't see that while checking the diving list by this team. My bad. And they're well synchronized, but both divers end up going too far over. They both have too much upper body movement while circling their arms and pushing. That's why they end up being far and over in the water. That was technically the problem with this dive by Grigorius and Athanasios. 51.30, and now Team Greece is at 184.74 in 5th place at the moment. Now Team Ukraine, the hardest dive of their list and also of the competition, but other teams will perform it. 3.8 degree of difficulty for a forward 4.5 somersault tuck. Very good, very good. This is gonna score high. They get very good entries, even though they weren't perfect off the board. We see Oleg on the right side is ahead of time in the somersault, but solid entries by both divers. They end up getting straight together at the water. They get back on track after some relief there by a young Ukrainian supporter. Yeah, so 7.5 and 8 in synchro, 6.5 individually. Total score of 82.08, the best dive so far today. Not bad at all. Now a forward 3.5 somersault pike for Team France. And once again, they're not perfect on the board. After in the air, they get back on track, but they kept a different momentum in the air. We see they end up getting almost completely back together in the somersault, but Alexei was always ahead. You see him coming out and getting straight before Jules. Also slightly short, not too bad. 8 in synchro. And individually, though, because of the struggle on the hurdles, 6.5 and 7 for them. 69.75. This could have been a little bit better because this is an optional dive, so a hard dive, but not as hard as other dives that we'll see today. Also, not as it was their easiest optional. Let's move on. Same dive for Team Switzerland. Forward 3.5 somersault pike for Guillaume and Jonathan. And the hurdle part of the dive, the beginning on the board, was much better than the French divers before them. But they, I don't know, they seem just like a little bit off in the entries. It's not bad at all, but we saw here how Guillaume is more distant from the board. It is overall better than the French diver. Also, this dive ends up being not perfect in synchro, but I gotta say, a good job overall. 7.5 and 7 for them, 8 in synchro. So the judges thought that in synchro, this dive was just like the ones of the French divers, but individually the Swiss divers did better, so more scores for them. And now is Team Germany. Reverse 1.5 somersault, 3.5 twist. And a mistake by Lars in the entry in the water. It splashes a lot. Here, off the springboard, they're together. Timo is lower, definitely lower than Lars, but the biggest mistake is the entry in the water by Lars. Way short and splashy. The scores are not very high, but consider the high degree of difficulty, they're still, well, they're not ahead of everyone at the moment, but they're not too far from the lead. They're 8 points behind Team Ukraine in second place. Now Team Poland, inward 3.5 somersault tuck for them. And definitely Team Germany lost a few points there. They're for sure aiming to get a medal here, but they could have done much better on this reverse twister. Oh, nice dive by Team Poland. Nice dive. Probably not the highest jump up in the air by both divers. But I gotta say, other than Casper on the left side being ahead of time in the somersault, other than that, they get good individual dives. Probably Andre was a little bit late on the kick, but they seem very happy and excited after these and very focused. They seem to be talking about keep on going like that, we're doing good, and they actually are doing good. 67.32. They're not far from the top. Just, I mean, they're 25 points behind Team Ukraine from goal, 17 points from Team Germany. But I tell you, they have very hard dives later, and you never know, anything could happen. We've seen it throughout the week here. Inward 3.5 somersault tuck for Team Great Britain also. And better job than Team Poland. The only problem with this dive was the entry in the water by Ross Aslam on the right side. They're perfectly together also. Oh, that's why. If you see on the further away from the camera, Ross was grabbing at his hand, and it doesn't it's covered here by his teammate, but he was grabbing at his hands and completely slipped his hands in the entry. That's why it was very heavy and splashy, but excellent dive, and Team Great Britain scores 74-46, and they get right behind Team Ukraine, just 3 points behind. Team Italy now, forward 2.5 somersault, double twist. And another tiny mistake by Team Italy. They seem off rhythm today. Again, Lorenzo is just steps too far back from the hurdle and is much lower than his teammate. Other than that, the clean entries help for the individual score, and also the high degree of difficulty helps. They get up in third place. Yeah, and see Lorenzo is talking with the coach, showing her how he was just leaning backwards and just stepping backwards. But we have the total standings after 4 rounds of dives. Ukraine is in first, Great Britain in second, and Italy in third, but they're all very close. 11 points between the first ranked team and the fifth, and just 16 with the sixth. So not that big of a gap between those 6 teams, and anything is still open. Anything could still happen. And here we are ready for Team Georgia, Sandro and Tornique. They were in 11th place. Their 5th dive is a forward 2.5 somersault full twist. And they take off and get in the water exactly at the same time. The difference here between the 2 divers is the way they come out. Sandro on the right side, so now further away from the camera, we see him getting in the water with his teammate, but in the air they were at opposite times coming out of the pike and into the twist. Overall, a very good dive for them. 6.5 and a total of 57.60. Team Austria now, also for them a forward 2.5 somersault, full twist. They were in 9th place at 217 points. And in this case, the problem with the synchro is the different distance from the board. We saw on the left side Nikolai getting too far away in the water. We see it here, they're completely in a different spot getting in the water. That is the thing that bothered the most the judges of this dive. Other than that, they did a good job with their individual dive. 60.30 points for Team Austria. Team Croatia now. After the big mistake on the last dive, they were in 10th place. Still not last. Forward 2.5 somersault, double twist. And first of all, now they got to focus on the hurdle. Make sure they get it right. And they do a much better job with this dive overall, but they will need to, for sure, work more on the timing. They are always getting back from the hurdle at different times back on the board. And that's the beginning of the issues with this dive, because then that causes the divers to react to that and hurry up into the pike position, move their bodies, in a wrong way. So 6.5 overall for individually and in synchro for Team Croatia, 65 points for them. Team Spain now inward 2.5 somersault pike, a lower degree of difficulty compared to the other teams fighting for a medal with them. The other teams have much higher degree of difficulty, so they will need perfection here. Good individual dives and absolute perfection in synchronization. And they do a great job. With their individual dive. Also, the synchro is good. The problem is that Nico on the left is further back in the water, more distant from the board, and that's the not that bad though. Not that bad. Live it seemed more distant from the board, Nico. But yeah, 7.5 and 8. The top on the shoulders from the coach. Seem happy with that. 69.30 on this dive. Team Greece, a forward 2.5 somersault, full twist. Oh, and one of the two divers got completely lost. Here, Grigorios on screen right now. You see him on the right side. He started his twist and then grabbed his legs. He got probably confused on what he was supposed to do. And he gets in the water with his feet first, so not completing the dive that he was supposed to do. He's smiling about it. It happens sometimes. So I guess the referee is deciding if it was a failed dive or if he did not got in the water with feet first. Let's see what he thinks. Yes, indeed. It is a failed dive. So zeros for them on this dive. And they stay at 184 points. And the leaders after 4 rounds of dives, Team Ukraine, reverse 3.5 somersault tuck for them. Oh wow, another excellent dive by Team Ukraine, and we see Anna Pismenska, their teammate, very excited. Good top part, they spin almost at the same speed, but both divers get excellent entries. Look, perfect line, very good job by Team Ukraine, and they get again above 80 points, a total of 334.68, 84 points on this dive. Team France now. Team France is doing a forward 2.5 somersault, double twist pike. An excellent job. 2 great entries in the water for both French divers. Better job on the board there together, up with their hands, come out of the pike position together. Alexis is slightly ahead of time getting in the water, but very nice entry by both divers. Very good, very good. And they're happy with that once again. 7.5 individually for the 2 divers, 8 in synchro, 79.56. Forward 2.5 somersault, double twist, also for Team Switzerland. Oh, good job by Team Switzerland as well. compared to the French divers that did not get great entries, but it's a good dive overall. The degree of difficulty is quite high, so not bad at all. They were trailing behind a little bit, but they do an excellent job with this dive. 7th individually and 8th in synchro. They're in 3rd place at the moment. Team Germany now. For Team Germany, a reverse 3.5 somersault tuck. It's the same dive we saw performed by Team Ukraine. And not well executed. Not very well executed. Timo on the left side struggled with the hurdle and did not have enough room to line it up correctly vertical. Ends up being quite short on this dive, while Lars is closer to the board and actually slightly over-rotates that 3.5 somersault. So Team Germany ends up getting behind Team Switzerland now at 309 points. Team Poland now, forward 2.5 somersault, double twist, pike for them. They could take advantage of this mistake of Team Germany. It is a good dive, especially individually by both divers, but definitely not the same timing in the air while twisting and somersaulting. You see it here, Casper is ahead of his teammate quite a bit. Then they do manage to get a good individual dive, vertical, both divers, but not good enough for a medal as of right now, below average. But they still have the 4.5 somersault tuck, and that could help. Well, we see Team Ukraine just relaxing in between dives. Now is time to watch Team Great Britain, reverse 3.5 somersault tuck for them. Team Great Britain was in 2nd place at 247, and they need 87 points to get on the top of the rankings, and they won't get it. The dives individually are good, but Ross Aslam is quite far away from the board. We see them spinning exactly at the same time. It's interesting how one diver on the left goes to the left and the one on the right goes on the right. But we see here how more distant than his teammate is Ross. Not bad overall. The coaches seem very excited. They're in 2nd place right now at 323 points, just 11 points behind Team Ukraine, and they have an advantage in the degree of difficulty on the last dive, but also a high risk forward 4.5 somersault tuck, and inward 3.5 somersault tuck for Team Italy, who was in 3rd place. 3.4 degree of difficulty for them. Let's see how they do. Oh, good dive. Too bad the entries are not very clean, but I gotta say they're together throughout the whole dive. Here, the squat, the push, perfect tuck position for both divers, and a good vertical entry. Probably just Giovanni Tocci further away from the camera here. It goes slightly over, but a very good dive by Team Italy, who keeps the 3rd place after 5 rounds of dives. And we have Danilo Konovalov now on screen. He is leading with his teammate Oleg. We see it here now. Ukraine in first, 3:34.68. 11 points advantage on Team Great Britain and 15 points advantage on Team Italy. But very close behind Team Italy, there's Team France. So once again, the medals won't be decided until the very last dive. And that has happened almost at every single final here in Rzeszów. That is very, very exciting. Let's start the last round of dives at the 3rd European Games of Kraków Malopolska 2023 here in the diving arena of Rzeszów. A forward 2.5 somersault double twist for Team Georgia with Sandro Melikidze and Tornike Nikasvili. And same as the previous dive where they did the same exact dive but with just 1 twist instead of 2. They come out of, you see it now in the slow motion, when they come out of the first somersault to start twisting, so out of the pike position, they're just, see, they make a cross here, they're not together. One comes out early, one comes out later, and just two different to get good synchro scores. Sixes for them, 60.18 total points for Team Georgia, and they close at 309.36. Team Austria now, same dive for them. They were in 9th place. They recovered very well from that bad hurdle. Alexander Hart was quite far back on that one. And he recovers very well. It's very difficult when you step that far back to still get enough momentum to get all the way vertical. He does a good job. 6s individually, 7s in synchro. They close at 3:45.51 and they seem happy with that. Team Croatia now, the young guys were in 10th place and they finished with a back 2.5 somersault pike. A good dive. Probably just a little bit slow off the board, leaning too far back, both divers. They do not pick up too much speed, but enough to get vertical. Matei is a little bit over, but not bad at all. And they get a total of 57.60 as their first experience in a final at European Championship in this event. And now Team Spain fell back in 7th place. They were 5th after 4 rounds of dives. They're 7th now because of the low degree of difficulty, and they closed their competition with a reverse 1.5 somersault, 3.5 twist. Beautiful dive. Just a bit heavy in the entry in the water here on the right side. Adrian, they twist in different direction. One twists to the right, one to the left. That is not a problem. But you see here, Adrian just slightly over in his individual dive. But overall, a very well executed 3.5 twist for Team Spain, and they get up at 384.06, and as of right now they're in 1st. They do very good. Team Greece now in work 2.5 somersault pike. Team Greece failed completely the previous round, the previous dive, and they're obviously in last, and they have no chance mathematically of getting out of that spot. Still have to finish and still want to finish well in this competition. They do a good job overall. Probably just different time off the board. You see it here. Grigorius on the right side is ahead of time a little bit compared to his teammate. But overall, two good individual dives. 6.5 and 7 from the judges, 59.40, and they close at 2:44.14. And now on the board, Team Ukraine, Ole Kolodi and Danilo Konovalov. Back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist, pike. They don't have to deal with a hurdle, which is one thing that the remaining teams all have to do. And it will be very interesting because now we have a back twister from the Ukrainians, a reverse twister by the French right after, and a bunch of forward 4.5 somersaults for the remaining teams. They do very good, probably not excellent, but I gotta say they're together throughout the whole dive. Also, they twist at different directions. Look at that, the somersault is perfectly together, and good verticality getting in the water. You see here, nearly just one person, short, both divers a tiny bit short, but 75.48 with 7.5s and 8s by the judges is 410.16 is the total score of Team Ukraine. Team France now, they need 9s and 9.5s to get ahead of Team Ukraine on this reverse 3.5 twister. And they're not gonna get 9. They were in 4th place before this dive, just 5 points behind Italy. They're not going to get 9, so they'll stay behind Team Ukraine there. Alexei is way ahead of time off the board, and he gets in the water much earlier. Not a bad job overall. Their best dive today with 80 points, 85, and they're in 2nd place at the moment, 394 for them, 394.92 France. Now Team Switzerland, and Team Switzerland also needs 9 to get ahead of Team Ukraine with this forward 4.5 somersault tuck. Very good job all the way until the entry. That a lot of speed in this somersault. The top part was excellent. Look how high, perfect time the somersault. Both divers unfortunately end up going too far over. Too bad, because these dives with great vertical entries would have scored above 85, 90 points for sure. Excellent job on these takeoffs. Unfortunately, they roll over. And as I told you, from now on, we'll only see this dive for the remaining of the competition. So 4 more times. And first is Team Germany. Team Germany needs 101 points, which is mathematically possible on this dive. This must be almost perfect. And unfortunately, it is not. Christoph Baum and Philipp Becker not very happy with the performance of their divers. They do a great job of the springboard. They're both very high, different speed in the somersault, and just like the Swiss divers, they end up rolling a little bit too far over. So 6.5 in synchro, 4.5, 5 individually. And Team Germany is already behind the podium in 5th place with 372. Here is Team Poland. Team Poland cannot mathematically reach the 1st place. I can tell you that already. They need 9th for 2nd place and 8th for 3rd. And very similar to the previous 2 teams. Very good off the board. They both carry on a lot of speed in the somersault. Look how good they're in the tuck position, but on the come out they're just not very clean. So once again, also for them is low scores individual, and because of that also the synchro does not score much, and they end up already right now out of the podium. 6th place for them. Big hug. We have Team Ukraine on screen now, waiting to see where they end up after this dive by Team Great Britain, and after that Team Italy, because they both can still mathematically catch up. Oh no, huge mistake. And it's funny, no, not funny, it's crazy, because this doesn't happen often in a competition in synchro. But since James was struggling with the hurdle, getting down on the board, also Ross noticed that and balked. So instead of failing because one was going to dive and the other wasn't, Ross was, that's very good, very fast thinking by Ross, realizing his teammate wasn't going to go, and he balked, so they can retake it, but there will be a penalty of 2 points by each judge. Oh, what an amazing job on this dive. And crazy. These might have given them the gold. Actually, I'm sure that it would have given them the gold, but since they retook the dive, the deduction of 2 points on this dive is not going to give them gold. Too bad. What an amazing performance by both divers. I got to say congratulations to Ross. I mean, tip of the hat to Ross for noticing his teammate was struggling. These would have scored 9s and 8s in synchro, and for sure would have given them the lead so far. Too bad, and they are in 3rd place at the moment at 393, and they're risking not to get the medal, depending on this dive by Italy. Also for them, a forward 4.5 somersault tuck. Team Italy could still, with 91 points, get ahead of everyone else. Let's see what they do. Last dive of the European Championship here in Rzeszów. And they are going to get, I think, a medal. I don't want to talk too early, but I don't think this is 8. They needed 8 to win. They needed 6.5 for a medal. It is not bad. Individually, they do a good job. Probably Giovanni is just too far away. But individually, they both do a good job. And Team Italy, with a total score of 402.666, get a silver medal here at the Europeans. And we have Danilo Konovalov, winner of this event, with the whole Team Ukraine cheering and celebrating. Another exciting competition. Here is the final standings of the final competition of the European Championship. Kolodi and Konovalov from Ukraine, 410.16. They win the European Championship, the gold medal. Italy in second with Giovanni Tocci and Lorenzo Marsaglia, 402.66 points. France in third with Jules